Kentucky coach Mark Pope, he wants a 40-game regular season schedule. And you know what, Andy Patton? So do we.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Friday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Andy, I like the hat tip, even though that's not what you were doing. It's the only daily national college hoop show out there. We're your host. That's Andy Patton. I'm Isaac Schade. We're so glad you're here. It's great to be talking hoops. And you're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We want to thank you for joining us to make this your first listen or watch of the day and remind you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is just right around the corner, so visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bet now. Andy, we want to welcome in the everydayers. So glad you guys are here, as well as all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. Big shouts to you guys as well. Andy, coming up on the show today, we've got a couple segments. They're kind of about Mark Pope in Kentucky, but really it's more about some thoughts that Mark Pope shared on a recent episode of Eye on College Basketball podcast. They do an annual summer shoot-around series where they look at several different teams around the nation. And on a recent episode, head coach Mark Pope joined Matt Norlander and had several discussions. So we're not even really talking Kentucky, just Mark Pope's thoughts on expanding to a 40-game regular season, his thoughts on the timing and length of the transfer portal. And then, Andy, we're going to wrap the show with Friday Facts. I'm up today. I'm going to be quizzing you. I hope you're up for it and ready. So, Andy, I'm going to turn this over to you. But basically right now, we have a 31-game regular season schedule. Next year, it's moving to 32. Mark Pope says that basically that's great. I want to see 8 more going to a regular season total of 40. Andy, why does he feel this way?
Yeah, he had a handful of points as to why he felt this way, and I think it's one of the, so Matt Norlander wrote up an article kind of talking about what Mark Pope said in their interview, but I do think it's helpful to have listened to the interview and gotten some of the context there, because it can sound like Mark Pope is complaining, and we're used to seeing a lot of coaches who maybe have air out their grievances in the offseason at times. But Mark Pope is like the most enthusiastic guy, and he loves college basketball. And he wasn't really complaining as much as saying like, hey, these are things that I think could really help the sport and maybe address some of the things that are a bit challenging. And he had 3 main points for a 40-game schedule, which again is a pretty significant jump and would obviously, in order to kind of keep March Madness as close to being March Madness, especially now with it already bleeding into April. The 40-game season would likely be bumped up, so you have games starting in mid-October as opposed to early November. And his 3 main points were this, and I'll just say them quickly, give a quick analysis, and then we can kind of talk about what we think on the topic. His first point was, quote, 1, our guys do better academically during the season than they do out of the season. Fine. I think that in a vacuum, I don't know that you can make that assumption for every player, and I'm not sure that it's super compelling argument, but fine. If that's one of his reasons, great. Number 2, he said a 31-game regular season doesn't prepare guys for the rigors of an 82-game schedule, and he had a nice quote about how when he was a rookie in the NBA, by the All-Star break, he'd already felt like he played 2 seasons, and he still had, like, in his mind, 60 games to go. I'm not sure his math quite checks out, but regardless,
I got the same thing.
I thought he was like, I was like, wait, 60? Like, that doesn't seem like it's right. But either way, I don't remember who his team was a rookie, or maybe they went very deep in the playoffs. Perhaps that's the situation. But this argument doesn't hold a lot of water for me, because 99 point whatever percent of college basketball players are not going to play in the NBA. So it doesn't really, like, he's not wrong. And I think there's a reason that there's a rookie wall, and it's described heavily being because college basketball season is a lot shorter, but I don't think that's a super compelling reason to make, and also going from 31 to 40 doesn't fix that issue all that much either. Number 3 is the year-over-year turnover in college basketball. And I think this is an interesting and compelling point that I kind of want to maybe spend a little bit more time on, because he basically is saying in an era where, you know, for most of college basketball history, you had 2 to 3 years with your group of players to figure them out as a coach. He was kind of talked about going through multiple evolutions of your roster. And now you only often get 1 year of those players. And so you're not getting that opportunity to kind of figure out what works, what doesn't work. And, you know, as a fan of specific teams, I've watched players spend an entire season never really figuring out their role. And I think that I don't know that 40 games is necessarily going to dramatically change that, but it could. And I think that Mark Pope has a valid point here of like, if fans are going to start getting frustrated that they can't get attached to players because they're transferring in, and in Pope's case, a lot of guys transfer to Kentucky, and after a year they're going to the NBA, or they're in many cases, he grabbed a lot of graduate players who only had 1 year of eligibility remaining. So the fans knew they were only going to get 1 year of these guys, but I can understand that frustration. And I don't know, again, that adding 8 games dramatically improves that, but it does.
Yeah.
More opportunities for coaches to figure out who his players are, who his players aren't, and more opportunity for fans to get to know the players. And I think one of the things that he said specifically in his interview with Norlander was like, the fans, Big Blue Nation got to know each of our players better every single game. And so you add more games to that, you get more camaraderie, more familiarity with the players, more relationship between the fans. And yeah, it's a little bit of coach speak, and it's a little bit of kind of, fan service, but I think it is a valid point. And I think most fans would agree. If you're a diehard college basketball fan, like the two of us are, you want to see more basketball. You want to see more of your team. And I think that more than the academic argument, more than the NBA argument, that is a compelling argument to me of like, in an era where where a lot of players are only spending 1 year at a school, why not get as many opportunities to see said player as you can?
Absolutely, Andy. And it's about the coaching staff getting those roles figured out. It's about the players being able to figure out those roles. It's more opportunities to prove that to your coach that you can do it when the lights come on, right? Like maybe I'm a freshman or a transfer, and let's say specific to Big Blue Nation, it takes me a game or two to get used to the big blue lights of Big Blue Nation, like Rupp's an intimidating place to be, not just for the visiting team, right? For a new player there. And so that's the thing. And when we think about like not, just 1 year, a lot of times it's not even a full year because you're arriving May, June, July, and then you're leaving in April or whatever it is, right? So that's a thing. Something I would be interested in, Andy, and let me say, I have felt this way for quite a while myself, like extending the regular season in college basketball for this specific reason, so that players get more opportunities, coaches get more opportunities. Hello, how about this? It gives the selection committee more data points to more capably evaluate teams to see what they are and aren't, especially as they round into form. Because that's the thing. I think the biggest point here is teams aren't rounding into form often until January or February, midway through conference play. And that doesn't give us, and then by the time we're getting to March, it's like, where did this team come from? Well, they're finally figuring themselves out. I think we would understand it better if they had longer. One other thing I'll say is, what's the breakdown? I don't want, if we went to 40 games, Andy, I would not want to see bloated conference schedules. Keep them at 18, keep them at 20. I do miss a true round robin, but I just don't think that's going to be feasible with conference bloat. But what I would want to see is more non-con games, more opportunities, because what I think that does, Andy, if I'm thinking correctly about all the algorithms of things, I think that would help the net more capably. I think it would help the Ken Palms, the Evan Mias that are doing the advanced metrics. I think it would help their algorithm more capably rank and see who all these teams are.
Great point. A phenomenal point that I think is a big part of this that Pope didn't really address in his conversation, but that I think is very compelling, is how much this might help us get an even better, cleaner NCAA tournament picture, as well as, those teams that, like, I'll use Baylor as an example. Last year's Baylor team took a long time to gel. Yeah. And I think Scott Drew's a very good coach. He's one of the best in the game, not just from an X's and O's perspective, but I think he's very good at, getting his teams to kind of come together. And it took a long time last year. And that team, I'm not sure they ever really found it. And so for a Baylor fan, that was a very frustrating season last year. And guess what? Now you have an entirely new roster. I think that the talent is there for Baylor. I think that it was there last year at times, but they had some frustrations. But now you have a completely new roster. Literally every single player is new. So even the best coach in the world is going to not have that team firing on all cylinders on day one. Yep. And so it's going to be another season where Baylor's not going to find themselves until maybe January, February, maybe even not until March. And if I was a Baylor fan 2 years in a row dealing with that, and then potentially a third, depending how things go, that's going to get really old really quick. So I do not again, Does a handful more games in mid-October to late October dramatically change that? I'm not sure, but it helps. It helps 100%. And I think that again, if you start rounding into form in January as opposed to mid or late February, the committee is going to be able to take that into account more effectively than they might have last year. Teams that were poorly seeded last year, Gonzaga was underseeded, Louisville was underseeded, Creighton was underseeded. Like there's a lot of teams that were seeded kind of in a weird spot because the committee didn't really know what to do with them. And I think a lot of that has to do with the changing times in college basketball. And I think this would help change that in a lot of ways. The other thing too, perhaps something that you and I have talked about quite a bit already, probably would save what we've been calling the life support of MTEs at this point. Like you're much more likely to go to Atlantis or to go to Hawaii or do those 3-game MTEs if you have a lot more games to play with on your schedule.
Yeah, Andy, that's a great point. Yeah, as you say that about Baylor, that's so true. Like how many fan bases in the transfer portal era have gotten to late February, early March and said, dang it, my team was just rounding into form, but there's not enough opportunities left to show the committee what they can do to get enough quad 1 wins or whatever it is. And in a former era, it would have been like, but that's okay because the vast majority of these guys will be back next year in Indy. Now we don't get that. Ultimately, this is a conversation in do we want it versus what's good for the sport. As you said earlier, junkies like us want every iota of it we can get. Yes, bring on mid-October around the same time the NBA would be starting. Oh, by the way, and let's try to own some time slots for that. But what's good for the sport? I think that's a question that needs longer evaluation.
Well, Isaac, most college basketball fans, including Coach Pope, do want to see the transfer portal window shortened. This has been another huge talking point. Coach Pope talked about this in the same interview. He wants to start it after March Madness. Great. We all agree there. But his actual idea for what he wants to do to the transfer portal window, it's pretty radical. It might even be too radical for us. We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, as the summer winds down, there's something nice about getting back into a routine, and Wayfair makes it easy to set yourself up for the season ahead. From bedding and linens to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair is your one-stop shop to refresh your home. And as we head into the fall, which, by the way, is the best season, I love fall. Fall in the Pacific Northwest, it is nearly unbeatable, and it is the perfect time to refresh your home and update some furniture. We're planning to make some changes to my podcasting studio out here, and Wayfair is the perfect help organizing, upgrading the space, and more. It's a little cluttered right now. For those of you watching on YouTube, this is going to help a ton. With Wayfair, the delivery is fast and free, even for something big. And don't forget, all of this is at a price that fits your budget. Get organized, refreshed, and back to your routine for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, Isaac, continuing our conversation here, like we said, it's kind of about Kentucky. It's kind of about Mark Pope. It's really just about his ideas, a conversation that he had with the great Matt Norlander on the Eye on College Basketball podcast. He talked about a few fixes or a few suggestions that he might have for college basketball. Chief among them was the 40-game schedule, increasing the number of games, ideally non-conference games, as we said, to make that schedule a little bit longer. But his other idea, Isaac, was about the transfer portal window. And I think we can collectively say, and the majority of people listening to this podcast can collectively say, that the idea here is solid, and that the idea of shortening the transfer portal window and moving the timeline back a little bit is pretty overwhelmingly supported. But Mark Pope took it to a spot that I'm not sure I would have necessarily taken it to. What are your thoughts on what he said here?
Yeah, Andy, I think we always have to remember, as we're starting to look at here, it's not just about when it opens or how long it is. It's about both of these things, and we have to consider both. And so I am all in with Coach Pope on the when, right? Like I don't even think we need to have much discussion about that. We say it all the time. Thankfully, we got some movement in that direction this year. It had been the day after Selection Sunday the past several years, and they moved it back this year. Let's just keep moving it on down the line, folks. And just for fairness for everybody, for our content schedule, thank you very much. And for all sorts of reasons of not stretching coaches too thin and all that kind of stuff. Let's just wait. Just wait till the tournament's over, man. It's the only thing that makes sense. So Coach Pope, we are in alignment with you there. We can quibble on when after the tournament that is, the Tuesday after, the next week, whatever. I don't even care, just after the tournament. But my man, Coach Pope, Andy, he wants this transfer portal to be 5 days. I can hear Joe Tipton crying, right? Like, can you imagine how awful his life would be for those 5 times 24 hours, however many? What is that? 100?
He's got to pre-make all of his meals or just like make shakes or something, because you're not even getting up from your chair, man. Like that is your whole week right there.
Poor Joe Tipton. I would love to hear his thoughts on this. I'll send him a message. But anyway, just even logistically, I don't know that's too soft. That is not enough time to make all these things happen and to figure out the movement and what do I need to do and to consult the right people. I think the shrinking that has happened from 60 to 45 to 30 is good. Honestly, I like just a month feels good. I don't mind pulling back. I know you've maybe got some thoughts on a middle ground, but I thought I actually personally really like 30. I just thought that felt like a good length.
I definitely don't like 5. I think that's too short of a window. And it's funny because Mark, like, again, you listen to the interview and like his reasoning for moving it back was very solid. And again, everybody kind of is in agreement. Like it's too complicated for coaches to be stretched so thin, having to deal with the transfer portal while they're coaching in the NCAA tournament. And similarly for players, they're entering the portal and then kind of just waiting. I mean, every player wants to play for a team in the NCAA tournament. So if those coaches are not getting back to you, you're kind of just, it's not really serving a lot of people at that time anyway. I wonder about guys who committed early in the portal to schools that weren't in the tournament who maybe regretted that decision. So again, all agreement there. But 5 days is just not long enough. It's just not a long enough time. And Pope kind of said, everybody should have their kind of know by then. I'm like, what about the guys who were in the national championship? And if anybody should know about a player who's in like the automatic response, well, guys who are in the national championship aren't entering the transfer portal. Mark Pope is very well aware that's not the case because one of his potentially best players next year, Denzel Aberdeen, transferred from Florida. Like there are guys entering the transfer portal from national championship team, from Final Four teams. It's happening every single year. And forcing those players, like imagine losing the championship and then having less than a week to decide if you want to stay at that school. Like that's doesn't feel like a super ideal situation. And obviously that's a very small sample of the players who are in this position. And I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it doesn't feel super fair to have the portal window be super short, especially for players who might just be coming off their season and maybe not emotionally in a state where they want to be thinking about something like that and having just such a small amount of time to do it. And again, I think it's worth noting that Pope acknowledged that his plan here is not perfect. I think his exact quote was like, there's not a perfect solution. There's not a perfect way to do this. And he talked about moving the portal window back and he said, well, there's going to be some kids whose season ends a month before the transfer portal window opens and they're just stuck. And I'm like, well, they're not really stuck though. Like they're just still, quote unquote, regular students at their school. And if they're planning to enter the transfer portal, they can say that. I remember multiple times when Joe would report like, hey, so-and-so player is expected to enter the transfer portal or intending to enter the transfer portal. Like there's nothing stopping you from doing that. So to me, I think that the date, great. 1 or 2 days after the championship, fine, awesome. I'm fine with it being shorter than 30, although I would err on if it was between 5 or 30, I'm staying 30. I'd probably say 15 feels fine. 20 feels fine, but at that point, you might as well just stay at 30. I didn't think 30 felt like a particularly big deal. And I was somebody who was waiting with bated breath to figure out if Braden Huff or Graham Ike were going to enter the portal because rumors started about them as soon as the season ended, and yet they did not. But 30 days felt like a long time last year waiting for that. But I think ultimately it's a happy middle ground, and I don't think it needs to be much shorter, certainly not at 5.
I'm just grateful that the dialogue continues on, Andy, like that we're continuing to evaluate. I appreciate that we've pretty quickly, the NCAA has made adjustments in the past couple of years. So I think we're both curious to see where this goes. Let's change this and just leave the tournament expansion off to the side forever and ever. Amen. All right, folks, it is time for Friday Facts. I got the question today. Andy, are you feeling up to the challenge?
Always. Bring it on.
Always. How do you spell that word you just said?
Always, like Snape does, like just really elongated.
I love it. All right, well, we'll find out if Andy is indeed always up for the challenge coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. There's a whole bunch of quarterbacks at the top. But how about Saquon Barkley, who ran wild last year? He's plus 6,000. That's some good long shot odds for the MVP. Maybe you want to crown your Super Bowl champ. How about the Eagles and Saquon to repeat? They're at plus 700, tied with the Bills and Ravens. Maybe you want to pick all 8 division winners and parlay that together. That'd be kind of cool to see if you could pull that off. Anyway, if you want to get in on anything like that, visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now for August 26th, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. It's time for Friday Facts. I'm going to ask Andy a trivia question that has multiple answers. We are going to see how he fares with this. We'd love for you to play along with us at home. Let us know how you did. Tell you what, if you get, Andy, I'll let you in. There are 15 answers to this.
Ooh.
It's 5 things of 3. It'll make more sense in just a second. But folks, if you can get 13 or more of these answers and you let us know, we'll give you a shout out on the show on Monday. Andy, Patton, here we go. There are currently 5 power conferences in college basketball: ACC, Big 12, Big East, Big 10, and SEC. No, that was not your trivia question to name them.
I was going to say I would have nailed it.
Your trivia question, sir, is to name from the 2024-25 season, so the one that just wrapped, the regular season champion, the conference tournament champion, and the conference player of the year from all 5 of those conferences.
Ooh, okay. Starting the ACC.
Okay.
Cooper Flag. There we go. Done.
Cooper Flag was the regular season champion. Yes. Who was the player of the year?
Duke was the regular season champion.
Correct. They were.
And Cooper Flag led Duke in every category. So yeah, basically, right. Did anybody? Was Duke the conference tournament champion too?
Or they were. Yes, yeah. They beat Louisville.
Duke Flag, right? That's an easy one.
Yep. So Duke Flag. Mm-hmm. There you go. Very good. Yes. That was the conference tournament semifinals where North Carolina kind of had a shot at beating them, and Van Allen Lubin stepped in, Jalen Withers stepped into the lane. Then they played Louisville without Cooper Flag, remember, in the championship, and still won. Crazy stuff there. What a run for Duke. Yes, Duke Flag.
I remember that Jalen Withers heartbreak. That was challenging to watch. Big 12, I'll go there. Houston's your regular season champion.
Correct.
I think Houston won the conference tournament too. I'm not as good about conference tournaments. That's going to be my challenge.
I know, because we don't care about them as much.
Yeah, they don't matter as much.
Number 1 seed Houston over 3 seed Arizona 72-64. And also I'll mention that Houston won the regular season by 4 games. Houston was 19-1 in the Big 12, Andy. That's insane.
That is ridiculous. Okay. Big 12 player of the year last year. Okay, let's see. Trying to go through. Who was it? It was not Hunter Dickinson.
It was not Hunter Dickinson.
I know that. I don't think it was anybody at Houston. I mean, it wasn't Cryer, right?
That's correct. It was not a Houston Cougar.
Okay. Because I was like, you'd think the team that won by 4 games would have the player, but they were just very balanced last year, so it didn't make as much sense. Let's see. Not there. No.
If you would like a hint, or if you would like to skip and come back, you are more than welcome to.
Yeah, I might skip and come back to that one. Yeah, let's skip and come back. We'll go to Big 10. Big 10. Regular season wasn't it Michigan State? Didn't they win?
There you go. Bingo. Michigan State won the regular season.
Yeah, because it was between them and Michigan, but then
Michigan crapped it down the bed. Yep.
Exactly.
So it ended up being Michigan State winning the conference by 3 games, 17-3 over Maryland and Michigan, who were both 14-6.
Yeah, but it was a weird team that won the conference tournament. I feel like my gut is saying Wisconsin. Was it Wisconsin?
They were in the championship
That's
as the 5 seed, but they lost it. They beat Michigan State in the semifinal, 77-74,
Yeah.
but they lost to
Mhm.
another team in the championship.
Was it Purdue?
It was not Purdue. Purdue lost to the
Mhm.
eventual champion in the quarterfinals, 86-68. Yikes.
Ooh. So was that Michigan then?
That was Michigan.
Okay.
Michigan won the Big Ten. We don't remember it much because that afternoon was crazy leading into Selection Sunday.
Right.
But yes, Michigan beat Wisconsin 59-53 to win the Big Ten Conference Tournament Championship.
Big Ten Player of the Year. Was it? It wasn't Braden Smith, was it?
It was.
Oh, well, that's easy then.
And the Big Ten, as a reminder, does both a media and coaches vote, and he was the Player of the Year in both sides of that.
Wow. Cool. Yep. Let's see. Next conference will go Big East. Big East regular season was won. Okay. It was St. John's, right?
Correct. St. John's 18-2 in the Big East.
Yeah.
Creighton second place, 3 games back at 15-5.
And St. John's won the tournament too, right?
That's correct. St. John's beat number 2 seed Creighton 82-66 in the championship. Yeah, they just slaughtered people.
Yeah.
They beat Butler 78-57, Marquette 79-63, and then Creighton 82-66. Unbelievable run they were on.
Well, actually, never mind. I was going to say when in my head I was like, it's probably somebody from St. John's who won Player of the Year, and then you said Marquette, and I thought, oh, never mind, it was Cam Jones, and then I'm not guessing Cam Jones. I remembered it's RJ Lewis. So
that's correct.
Yes.
I don't know why it wasn't Cam Jones.
Not better than Cam Jones. No. There's a bit of revisionist history with RJ Lewis doing what he did in the NCAA tournament, but still.
But yes, similar to Duke and Cooper Flagg, St. John's and RJ Lewis swept the Big East in this category.
SEC. The SEC regular season was won by Auburn.
Correct. Remember, SEC. Auburn, folks, for people who maybe forget how dominant they were during the season because of how they slowed down, won the SEC regular season. It ended up, because of how they kind of laid down the stretch, only beat Florida by 1 game in the SEC standings.
I remember that, yes. But then Auburn still won the conference tournament, right? Or
they actually did not.
No, they stumbled, right. Florida won it.
Florida won it. There you go. Auburn lost in the semifinals to 4-seed Tennessee. Florida beat Alabama 104-82 in the semis, and then beat Tennessee in the championship game by 9. Another one that we don't remember too terribly well as we prepped for Selection Sunday.
Right. I do know the SEC Player of the Year, though, was Jani Broome. That's a pretty easy one.
That is correct. Jani Broome, SEC Player of the Year.
So the only thing I'm missing is still Big 12 Player of the Year?
Correct. And so far, you are 14 for 14, sir. You are slaying this game.
Yes. I love it. Big 12 Player of the Year is going to kill me, though. Man, why am I struggling with this? Because there's a lot of good players in the Big 12.
There are a lot of good players. Well, you've already established it's not a Houston Cougar. No LJ Cryer. It's not Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah.
Anybody else coming to mind? Process out loud with us here.
Yeah, I will. Everybody that's coming to my mind, I'm kind of quickly ruling out, which is why I'm struggling to actually give you a guess. Like it's not VJ Edgecombe because Baylor wasn't good enough. It's not Caleb Love. I don't think that would be surprising to me.
He did win it the year prior, but did not win it this year.
I don't feel like Iowa State had a
Pac-12 player of the year prior.
Gotcha. I don't think Iowa State had a standout player, so I don't think it's anybody there.
Correct.
It's not like Richie Saunders at BYU because
great thought.
Yeah, they weren't good enough, and he statistically not good enough. Kansas State wasn't good. TCU, no. That's why I'm struggling. Who the heck is left? It's not Colorado. It's not Arizona State. It's not Central Florida. It's not.
You have not named this team, so you're over.
It's not Utah. So what teams are left then? Let's see. Okay, it's got to be. Is it Darian Williams?
Ooh, right team. Wrong player.
Is it Toppin?
It's Toppin. JT Toppin was your Big 12 Player of the Year in 2024.
He passed through my head, but for some reason I just didn't think he was there statistically. But maybe it's because I know he's like the favorite to be not only the Big 12 Player of the Year this upcoming season, but he's like a lot of buzz to be the potential Player of the Year this year. So maybe maybe that's why I ruled him out. But he was phenomenal last year.
Yeah, let's look at just the counting numbers. Yeah, 18.2 points a game, 9.4 boards, 1.2 assists, 1.5 blocks a game. Yeah, 32.7 from the 3-point line. So JT Toppin doing it in the Big 12 this year. Andy, great job. 14 out of 15. Unbelievable stuff. Really proud of you. Yeah, we had sweeps in the ACC and Big East. Pretty interesting stuff there. So be interesting to see how this comes around next year. Love a good Friday Facts, folks. Don't forget to let us know how you did with this. Andy, get us out of here.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, Isaac. Thanks for doing it. That's going to wrap it up for us today here on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Folks, thank you so much, like we said, for making the show your first listen or your first watch of the day. We appreciate those of you hanging out with us here in August, talking college hoops. We love it. We're hoping the season gets started even sooner. Shout out Mark Pope for wanting to do that for us here. As always, though, we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family since it wasn't Fletcher who was the Big Ten Player of the Year. Let's go Wild Popes. Talked about him a lot today. Cheers to the Mick Bruins. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. And until next time, peace out.